Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We seem to be having a few technical difficulties with Zoom this morning. We've had some video difficulties and host issues. So we are going to get started here and hope that things will work will work out. I'm going to turn it over to Nick Hurst to do the intro, but thanks for joining us, and we'll get started now.
Thanks, Nancy. It's Nick Hurst. I'm with the US EPA's Indoor Environments Division. Can you hear me all right on your end, Nancy?
Yes, we can, Nick.
Great. Sorry, the video doesn't seem to be working out today, but you can pretend my face is up there on the screen, and I'm joined also by Gayatri Vijaykumar at Stephen Winter Associates, who's one of our technical support contractors, both for Indoor airPLUS as well as our other labeling programs on the Energy Star side with the Energy Star Multifamily New Construction Program. So it's great to have her here. She'll be offering a little bit of a tour of the Indoor airPLUS version 2 website in a little bit. And I'll walk through just a few slides to get us started. This is a snapshot of the agenda that we're going to discuss today. We'll just start by discussing some of the kind of significant program updates that are being proposed for Indoor airPLUS version 2 and some of the background about this new framework, how we feel that these changes may help address some of the feedback we received previously. But right now is your opportunity to provide input to EPA about these new proposed changes. So we'll discuss what this means in terms of a revised timeline for implementation of version 2, et cetera. And then we'll also leave some time for Q&A during the session. And we can explore some of the key technical changes if participants are interested. We've listed just a few of them here. But again, Gayatri will be giving a little bit of a tour of the website to help you get oriented and to help navigate quickly to a number of those new documents that we have out now for comment, including a summary with the highlights of the proposed technical changes. So we'll save that for the end. So about 2 years ago, EPA posted a first draft of potential Indoor airPLUS version 2 specifications. We got lots of interesting feedback on that. Some stakeholders were suggesting that Indoor airPLUS should really go further and increase rigor on a number of IAQ protections, such as radon testing requirements, ozone threshold values for air cleaning equipment, a number of other ones as well. And then, of course, there were others who felt that what we proposed in that draft spec may increase the cost and really negatively impact affordability and program participation at a unique time when Indoor airPLUS has been gaining some important momentum and some market recognition. So we heard that IAP should consider also a standalone label, just focused on IAQ features without other prerequisites. So there was lots of important input. During that same period of comment review, our team in the Indoor Environments Division has been deliberating on whether a certification system like this could be applied to existing homes, where we see a tremendous need for IAQ improvements and huge opportunities to help impact public health. In short, we're still exploring how to best incentivize upgrades, IAQ upgrades in all of those unique existing homes where we're living in. But for now, Indoor airPLUS is proposing to continue essentially with the same scope as version 1, which are residential, site-built, or modular buildings of any height, and they can be either new construction or gut rehabilitations. So what's new in this proposal for tiered specifications is where the certified tier focuses strictly on IAQ fundamentals with no other certification prerequisites. So if you've been building to code and you want to address your customers' interest in health or indoor air quality, but you haven't yet explored high performance programs or certifications, you can now start here with Indoor airPLUS certification. However, for those builders who are interested in advancing what they can offer, whether both with energy efficiency and enhanced IAQ protections, the Indoor airPLUS Gold tier would continue to incorporate Energy Star certification as a prerequisite, and then a number of other requirements that we had previously proposed in the earlier draft specifications for version 2. So let's talk a little bit about why. We haven't traditionally used a tiered model in our programs, like some of the other kind of national and regional green building programs, but so why now? Well, one reason is we have these diverse perspectives on how to best advance health protections with our voluntary programs and tools like Indoor airPLUS. But We also have a very diverse housing stock, especially taking into account existing buildings and gut rehabs. And we have different starting points, many of us as builders in various markets, even simply in new construction. So over this last year or so, we've been asking, well, what are really the fundamental IAQ protections we'd like to see implemented in all homes? And then how can we encourage their broader adoption? And to be perfectly honest with everyone, we're not sure yet that we have the magic recipe for this. But this is what we hope to advance with the certified tier in the new framework with no prerequisites. So third, we want to see health protections advanced for everyone, not just those of us who have the ability to invest in a sophisticated IAQ system or new technologies. We want to see IAQ improvements for those who really need it most, those who are negatively impacted by the cost of healthcare or an asthma attack or returning trips to the ER. And then to make more of an impact for those individuals, we feel we need to better address entry-level market rate homes, as well as the affordable housing sector and gut rehabilitations in a better way than we have in the past. Nonetheless, we still want to create opportunities for those leading innovative builders. Many of you are out there who have the ambition to take on new challenges as market leaders in healthier homes. And so this is why we're exploring the gold specification and what that's intended to do. Now, the branding and the marketing for this new framework is certainly still open for consideration. If you don't like the nomenclature of gold or certified, we're happy to consider your input and ideas on everything from the technical pieces, the differences of the specifications, to the overall program structure and the branding as well. So a couple other points of background. This is sort of a rhetorical question. What's really the most important way to address IAQ fundamentals? Is it through prescriptive requirements? Is it through performance-based approaches? Maybe it's a combination of these. When we talk about IAQ fundamentals, we focus on these three strategies, which many of you are familiar with: source control, ventilation, and filtration, or what we call air cleaning. And builders and sales teams often put a lot of emphasis on the prescriptions and the particular features of the bells and whistles that go into the home, the fancy air cleaner, a 28-seer mini split, whatever those new smart connected features are available. These are all really important. They help us sell great homes. They help us build great homes. And while the features and prescriptive requirements are important, we do feel that the overall outcome and the performance of the home should really be emphasized, whether we're talking about energy efficiency, water efficiency, durability, or even IAQ. But this can be tricky for an IAQ program. So many of us now own a desktop IAQ monitor that might have temperature, relative humidity, carbon dioxide, particulate matter, and estimated TVOCs, potentially even radon. These are all great tools. They can help us often identify IAQ events that are happening. And there's so much going on in the controls and automation space with ventilation systems, with IAQ sensor integration. But we know also that for many of the IAQ contaminants, there's still a need for standardization in sensor equipment, in testing protocols, and just the basic IAQ metrics to help us as users understand what the readout of that IAQ monitor means in terms of the health protections and what actions we could take. So with outdoor air quality, we have this regulatory framework, and we have these specific metrics that municipalities are mandated to achieve, but we don't have that same framework for indoor air, and very few U.S. standards for those contaminants, with one exception, which is radon. So in short, there's a place for IAQ monitoring version 2 and beyond, and we'll also continue to have numerous prescriptive requirements for various materials and systems that we think need to be included in a certification like airPLUS. But we do intend to move more towards performance-based approaches and looking towards verifiable outcomes as a certification principle. And of course, we'd really like your input to help us find that appropriate balance. So the next set of questions we've been exploring for background, it doesn't really have anything to do with cheese, but we're trying to build and rehabilitate homes that last for many decades, maybe even centuries, right? So why would we use this analogy and think of homes that we build or the certifications that come with them as perishable? When we think about certifications or labels as a tool to improve health protections in homes, which is ultimately what airPLUS is, we're trying to ask a variety of questions, such as how does the building age? How do we improve long-term durability? with a certification program? How can we better address issues that arise due to occupant turnover? And ultimately, how do we promote sustained IAQ outcomes with a certification? So under version 1, which we're operating under, Indoor Plus qualified home earns the label. It remains on the home in perpetuity. It does include a verification date, which gives some context about when it was built and what the program requirements may have been at the time. But what does that value continue to offer over time? Hopefully, it offers some additional value in the resale market, which might offer some incentive for the builder to offer the certification in the first place, what we're trying to achieve. But we do think we're missing opportunities to ensure that these important IAQ protections endure and that they're sustained as the building ages. So the proposal here in this next draft for public comment is to place a 5-year expiration date on the label. And that doesn't mean that someone needs to come out and peel the sticker off the home after 5 years, but it does remind, hopefully, the homeowner that if they want to maintain and pass along the value that comes with their certification, the home needs to be re-inspected for its IAQ features and, again, the outcomes. And the intent here is to get those qualified professionals, the talented verifiers and raters who are participating and are up to date on the latest science and the current program requirements, to get them back into homes to help them continue to improve. So we hope this further improves market value for these homes, while also strengthening brand integrity for Indoor Plus. We'll be building out some details about the reinspection process in the months ahead, but we do look forward to getting your feedback from the industry on this during this comment period. So be sure to look at that. Again, Gayatri will talk about where this is described in some of our documents. So another big item is, which may be a little less exciting for some of you, is the HCO Framework. So what is this? Well, with version 2, we plan to formalize an Indoor Plus certification system. This is a document that will also serve as an application for home certification organizations, or HCOs, to administer this system in the market. This framework is similar to those that have already been established by Energy Star and WaterSense. There certainly are a few differences pertaining to modeling and software, et cetera, but it uses the same basic framework of oversight and of quality assurance, which again are already formalized with some of our other EPA labeling programs. And then for the purpose of Indoor Plus certification in version 2, that HCO could operate as an Energy Star HCO, or they could oversee Indoor Plus independently if they're using the certified tier. They might also oversee just new construction, or just gut rehabs, or potentially both. So while this won't necessarily change much for the builder and the rater, we do see this as an important evolution at EPA as the program transitions and continues to scale up adoption in the market as a market-based program. So many of you have been asking, what's the timeline for this? When will this go into effect? This is our best guess right now. As I mentioned, public comment is currently open through April 3rd. We don't currently have another comment period scheduled. So if you don't like what you're seeing in any of this draft framework, now is the time to voice concern. At the same time, if you do like some of the new aspects that you're seeing, if you participated before, please send us that feedback as well. Both types of feedback are helpful. In any case, we'll be planning to update final specifications. We'll post the HCO applications and the certification system and develop new marketing materials and collateral surrounding the version 2 framework throughout this calendar year of 2023. The earliest we would foresee implementing version 2 is January 2024, there on the far right. And we intend for a 1-year transition period to completely sunset version 1 in January of 2025. Again, this is still dependent on what we hear from stakeholders, and some of those dates are subject to change. But the key point we want to drive home here is that we want to hear your perspectives and comments, both right now and in the weeks ahead. So I'm going to exit the slides now and turn to our Indoor Plus website, and I'm going to turn things over to Gayatri, who's going to kind of help you navigate through this flashy Indoor Plus website that we all love. And we wish it could be a little bit more graphically interesting and intuitive, but this is the purpose of what she's going to share today, to help you find what you need to find. So Gayatri, I'll turn to you.
Sure. Thanks, Nick. I did want to pause and just remind people, I know we hit the ground running today real fast, so about the Q&A. So before we jump into the website overview, Nick, let's pause and just see if anybody has questions based on what you just presented in terms of just the overview, and then I'll dive right in.
Great.
And so I see one question. Is Aaron? Oh, Aaron's back. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry about that. Yeah, we have a question. Will the slides and recording be available? Yes, it will. We'll post it at EEBA.com/academy as a live session. It'll go on our YouTube site as well. And then I'm going to post the link to the page that you're currently on as well to help people kind of navigate and follow along there. And if you want to ask a live question, I think we've got 27 folks on the call today. You definitely can raise your hand. We could unmute if you want to ask a live question or give some live feedback. I think that would be acceptable with this size of audience.
Sure thing.
Great.
Thanks, Aaron. And I actually went ahead and posted that website
perfect.
that you're seeing on the screen right now, only because I want this to be interactive. If you are here because you are interested in what is going to be in version 2, right? This is our draft right now that Nick just gave you an overview. You're here because you're interested in providing public comment. So go ahead if you have more than one screen, go ahead and click it open. So that way, if you have questions, we can answer them in real time. So basically, once you have that link, you'll actually skip this screen and go straight to the version 2. So go ahead, Nick, if you just click on that version 2, learn more. And so once you're on this screen, there's going to be a little bit of narrative up on the top, which is what you heard Nick describe through the PowerPoint presentation, right? So if you scroll, I'm going to actually go in reverse order. The public comment tool is at the very bottom. So first things first, if you have access to this website, I would recommend that you just grab that PDF tool. You're going to download that, and it's going to help you organize your public comments. And so, it's form fillable. So if you are interested in commenting on certain documents, there is a structure here. So you can just type your comments directly related to them. And I'm going to give you a guided tour on how to find these documents and what's contained in each of them. And then if you're more into the nitty gritty, like details on technical requirements, then you can come down here. Again, it's free form comments, but you can also put a check mark if you're only reviewing gold because you think you're only going to participate in the gold certification tier, or if you're reviewing both and your comment applies to both, you can just check those boxes. So I just wanted to point out that there is a simple tool for you guys to use. And so now if we jump back out to the main website, it is hard in this website structure to kind of find what you're looking for. So that's what the guided tour is for. The first thing to look at is in the executive summary and the highlights. So before you click on that, let me just give a little explanation. So the executive summary is basically a 3-page document. It gives an overview similar to what Nick provided during his PowerPoint presentation. So if you go ahead and click on that, it's mostly narrative. So if you're either maybe brand new, we weren't able to take a poll of this group to see who's in the audience. But if you've never participated in Indoor airPLUS at all, or you have, and you're interested to see how it's changed or it's proposing to be changed in version 2, this is kind of Nick's brain on 3 pages of paper. So this is a document. It's a good starting point. If you go back to the website, the next document is more, again, for the people that are verified or into the nitty gritty. If you click on that, this is kind of a highlight for the folks that have participated in version 1 before. We thought it was useful to put something in context of what you've done to date for Indoor airPLUS certification. So this is a highlight reel, basically. These top bullets are things that Nick described in the PowerPoint presentation, the changes to eligibility, this gold tier and the certification tier, and this HCO model. And then we go section by section. So the sections are basically the same as they were in version 1. So starting off with moisture control and then radon. So each of these we have gone through and looked to find the differences compared to version 1. Because most people that participated in version 1 just want to see what's different. What have we proposed that is substantially different than what you're doing today for Indoor airPLUS certification? So you could come to this document and read through it and get a sense of what's substantially different than what you're doing right now. It also flags in bold if it's only specific to multifamily buildings. It won't apply to single family. And then also if it's in that gold tier that Nick described. So some of those gold changes is because we're gonna, the base for those buildings is Energy Star. And in the gold tier, we want to push a little further in terms of our indoor air quality protection. So you're going to see gold level requirements highlighted like that.
Gayatri, can you take a live question? Are you okay with that?
I can, sure. Okay,
Tom Marks, I'm going to permit talking in your end. I think you then have to unmute yourself. And Tom, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, I think I muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Great, Tom.
I jumped on a couple minutes late, so I apologize if this was hit on the very start, but and I might have a couple questions. I was curious about, once public comments are submitted by April 3rd, what happens next? And I guess I've had a little involvement with ANSI approved standards, and there's committee meetings and task groups and things like that. Is it along those lines, or is this comments are submitted, EPA looks at them and goes with whatever jives and what doesn't, I guess?
Yeah, great question, Tom. I'll field that. This is Nick, the Indoor Plus Program Manager. We are not a voluntary consensus standard, so we don't have like the same sort of ANSI model as a federal labeling program. We have a technical team here at EPA, along with contractors who kind of will be reviewing all those comments. I'll jump ahead just briefly to show you the response to public comments that we had in the first round, which is here under additional resources. And we will be posting a similar response to public comments as this. This basically gives a little bit of background and goes item by item from describing what we heard in the summary of comments, and then what our response is to each of those. And we won't, go into great detail about exactly what each change is. You won't see a red line version from version 1 to this, but you will see a summary of how we responded to each of those comments, which were very helpful, very thoughtful, sometimes in great conflict, and are challenging to find reasonable compromises that are going to work for the whole industry. How long that process will take, we don't know, depending a little bit on what we hear. This first round certainly took quite a bit longer than we expected to, as we deliberated. As I described at the beginning, we deliberated quite a bit on how to best meet the market and provide a standard that's high achieving, but also one that actually hits a broader market for entry level and gut rehabbed affordable housing builders as well. Hope that helps.
It does, and you just mentioned gut rehabs. So Indoor airPLUS is applicable to new residential projects and existing, or is that right?
It's available right now for residential buildings of all heights that are newly constructed or gut rehabilitated. It's not opening up yet to all existing homes, just those that are being gut rehabilitated.
I got you. And then I actually have one other question about the actual form, but maybe you guys are you going to walk through that more, or?
That now's a good time to ask that. We were right at that tool, that comment response tool.
If there was, a comment related to something along the lines of like, this might be applicable for certified, but for gold, we might consider something else. Do you suggest like 2 different forms filled out with each one of those certified and gold boxes checked separately, or so you can only check one of those boxes at a time? You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can't. Okay, well, I don't know if you're getting the spirit of the question, but would you rather see multiple forms for a variety of comments, or like put everything on one and sift through it?
Everything on one form, preferably. And in the past, we have had some folks who want to download the specs in PDF form and put little comment bubbles in the specs. That can be a little bit challenging to read sometimes. That's why we kind of like using this form, because it's easy for us to kind of aggregate all this together into one, sort of location for us to kind of consider all comments together. So if you have a comment that pertains to both the certified tier, what we're calling V2 here, as well as the gold. Just check the both item, and you can describe what you think a more appropriate requirement might be in each tier.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Great. Excellent question.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. So if we jump back to the website, and questions like that are welcome. That's the whole point of today's webinar. So we wanted to start with that so you know exactly how to submit your public comment by April 3rd. So let's go back up to the top. We talked about the executive summary and the highlights. The highlights is kind of just wading into this to see what has changed since version 1, if you participated in version 1. So now, before we start clicking on any files, this section is called Program Requirements and Specifications. So before we open this first link, this is a new document for Indoor airPLUS. It's called the National Program Requirements. And before we open it up, National Program Requirements is something we've kind of borrowed from the Energy Star program. So Energy Star, for those of you who are familiar, has a National Program Requirements, which is kind of the starting point for their program. You go there, you find things about training and eligibility and their implementation timeline. It's a good starting point document, which Indoor airPLUS hasn't had to date. And so if you go ahead and click that open, we decided it was time to create a national program requirement. So there's no comparison in version 1. This is a brand new file. It's only 3 pages. And if you've seen the Energy Star one, it follows that same kind of structure. So there is some new information in here related to training. So in version 1, there was not really a requirement for verifiers to pass any kind of training or the builders to take orientation, which is required in Energy Star. So you'll see information about that. Some of it is to be determined. And so we do need to develop that training, but the plan for now for version 2 is that verifiers would take some kind of training. The certification process, again, Energy Star starts off with the certification process, steps you through this. Ours is slightly different because we do have this certified and gold. So where it's different, where the certification process is different, you'll see it in bold, like you see right there in 1A and 1B. We talk about the HCO as part of this process. And then if you keep going down, you'll see some information about the effective date. So some of this, all of the documents we're talking today are a draft form, right? Because it's a draft form for you to be able to submit public comment. Based on public comment, some things will get revised. So as of right now, there are some like TBDs in here, but this timeline might have to get updated. But as Nick mentioned before, the goal is to have this on the street by January of 2024 for optional use, and then hopefully transition to fully using this by 2025. So this is our national program requirements. It applies whether you're doing the certified tier or gold. So now if we hop back to the website, we can go through the rest. These are all the footnotes that are associated with the prior pages.
And these are important to remember and not completely gloss over, especially if you've been participating before. These are kind of some important definitions for what we describe as verifiers and HCOs, of course. So be sure to look at those in conjunction with the specs as you dive into the specs.
All right, and speaking of specs, in this section, the first group, you'll see right below the national program requirements. And again, before we click on it, this one is the certified. So that if you're interested in the certified tier, just look for that file because it says certified. And we're not going to click on it yet, but 2 clicks down, you'll see the ones that are for gold, right? So if you're interested only in certified or just in gold, just make sure you look for that keyword. So we'll go ahead and open this up. This is going to look familiar again if you did version 1. We started with our version 1 construction specifications, and that's what we've been editing to create the version 2. So similar framework as you've seen currently. You've got your sections, you've got your checklist. Like Nick mentioned, there's no red line here. We did a lot of formatting changes. We have item numbers that we didn't have before, and that helps you match these requirements from the certified tier to the gold tier as well. So we're not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but it's just enough to say that if you did version 1, it's very similar. If you've never done version 1, it starts off with the checklist, and then each checklist item actually has more detail in this section called certification specification. So you have the checklist that you take out onto the field so that you can do your verification. But if you need more details, you come down to this main section on the specs. And so you want to show something on here?
Well, I was going to say it's also helpful to note for those of you who have been participating already, we used to have kind of a bulleted format for all these specifications. We have tried hard to number these a little bit more discreetly. So we think that'll make it easier for you to provide public comment and ultimately easier for us in the future to maintain and update the specifications. If you have input on that and how some of this is formatted, we're certainly open to that too.
And I do see a question in the chat. Aaron, do you want to bring that one up? I think that one's
Yeah, absolutely.
timely.
So I think a question about training. I'm looking at the Q&A, so I'll read that one first. Do you anticipate the training is going to be simple videos on the IAP site, or more of a course with a training provider, testing, etc.?
Great question, and we're grappling with that right now. We do want it to be, we don't want to create new barriers or hurdles for the market to participate. At the same time, we want all the verifiers in particular to have the same general understanding and knowledge about what's required in indoor airPLUS. And we do think that probably somewhere between a 2 to 3 hour training may be reasonable and appropriate for that. So we don't have an answer yet for you on what the verifier training exactly is going to look like. From the builder standpoint, we also want a similar kind of base level of knowledge and understanding about what it means to build an IAP home and also to market an IAP home. If you've done Energy Star, you know about the Energy Star kind of builder orientation, which is a fairly simple, straightforward video to walk through. And we anticipate something similar to that. Not a heavy lift, not a big set of requirements. Might be 10 minutes to 30 minutes to kind of get oriented to the program and what we think are the key points for builders to understand. As with our current program and other labeling programs, these are living documents, and some of the specifications change over time and are modified slightly as we get feedback and clarification. So any training that we provide and require will ultimately need to be updated in the future as some of the revisions are made. We don't anticipate that we would ask verifiers to retake the training at any point in the near future. Once you take the version 2 training, you will be able to check that box. But again, as the specifications change, we may want to adapt those trainings. So more to come on that in 2024.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great question that came in, Nick. Is certified or gold going to be a requirement for Zero Energy Ready certification, or has this not yet been determined?
It's not yet been determined, and we're in close discussions with both the Energy Star team and the Zero Energy Ready Homes team about the evolution of our programs. And the DOE is interested, very interested in what type of feedback we get on this, what we're proposing today. With a certified tier and a gold tier before they make that determination. So we will learn more about that as we get through the public comment and put out the response to public comments and ultimately kind of finalize the requirements. So DOE will have to make that decision on their own.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
Yeah. All right, so this was certification. So let's jump back to the website so we can just show gold. It's going to look very similar, and I'll come back to that quality assurance checklist in just 1 second, but I just want to show the gold. Yep, so just when you download these files, just an easy way to remember that you're in gold. We have updated that Indoor airPLUS logo, so just make sure it says gold. There's Energy Star, right? Energy Star is a prerequisite for gold. So just make sure if that's the set of construction specifications you want to comment on, just pay attention that you've opened the right file. So it does have the same. Go ahead, Aaron.
Gayatri, is Energy Star a prerequisite for both programs?
No, so Energy Star is only a prerequisite for gold and is not a prerequisite for certified. That was kind of the result of the first round of public comment, as Nick was saying. It's just, how do we get this more broadly adopted? And if Energy Star was kind of the hurdle, is there a way to still advance indoor air quality protections if people aren't ready to make all the upgrades needed for Energy Star just yet? So that is why we have 2 tiers now.
Thank you.
So if you scroll down, you see very similar, right? It starts off, you've got your table of contents. It's the same sections, which is why we went through all the effort to assign item numbers to these requirements. So you can match them from base to gold and more easily see the difference. Starts with the checklist. Again, the details associated with each checklist item is down in the specs. And before you go too far from this page, worthy of note is the Energy Star prerequisite, which you wouldn't have seen in the prior checklist. And so it was challenging. It's always been challenging for us. We don't want to have redundant statements, right? Because Energy Star has a lot of indoor air quality requirements in their program checklist. So we also didn't want to lose sight of them because they do kind of mesh well with some of these requirements. So you're going to see them shown in italics. And so that's just something we wanted to highlight in these checklists. So if you see it in italics, it is an Energy Star requirement, but it's being verified here through Indoor airPLUS. So we just wanted to draw your attention to it. Specifically in water management requirements in the Energy Star program, those are a builder commitment. There's no rater verification really of it. And so that is the step up beyond Energy Star that is encompassed in Indoor airPLUS, is that the rater is actually verifying that those are all installed correctly. All right, so we can head back to the website. There was 2 quality assurance checklists that I was going to punt on. So I just want to explain them to you without opening them up. As Nick mentioned, the home certification organizations that provide quality assurance and oversight, just like they do in Energy Star, right? So we have home certification organizations that do that for Energy Star. Verifiers or raters are subject to file reviews and field reviews, some kind of quality assurance. And so when we call our QADs, right, in the Energy Star world, they have a checklist. And so now if you want to just open up one of those, we can pick this one. Again, this one says certified. So this is a home that's not doing Energy Star, but wants to do some upgrades to indoor air quality. This is what the HCO's quality assurance individual would take with them on a field visit, or if they're doing a desktop file review. They're looking through the same requirements or a subset of the requirements that you as a verifier or builder has implemented in the building. So you can look at this in terms of just like format and content, but the specific details you wouldn't want to dive into twice, right? We copied the specific requirements from the previous 2 checklists and put it in here. And we took some time to think about whether each requirement needed to be re-verified by a quality assurance person on site. So as we field the public comment, if we feel like we're going to change a technical requirement, we will automatically change it here. So when you're doing your public comment, if you have a comment on radon testing, for example, you don't need to come back here and say, you know, remove it here because I removed it there. I don't want this anywhere. We will definitely, once we update the certified checklist and the gold checklist, these checklists would also have to be updated to match. You don't have to submit duplicate public comment. But if you are looking at this because you do provide quality assurance, maybe for Energy Star or for other programs, just, you know, review it with the lens of the requirements might change, but does this make sense if I'm doing a desktop file review, or if I'm actually in the field? Are these things I could re-verify in the field after construction is complete and I've selected this home or building for quality assurance? This should look very familiar to the Energy Star quality assurance checklist that they use for their QA right now. And so we don't need to see the gold one. The gold one will be very similar in terms of format. It'll just be different in terms of the requirements because, again, the requirements are slightly different. And so this is a good segue to the certification protocol and system. These 2 PDFs are very pertinent to our home certification organizations. So those folks, if you want to pop that one open, the certification protocol is the shorter document. This is just it's a similar document that Energy Star has. It kind of outlines all the program documents we have and any internally referenced standards. So you can see our certified program and our gold, our policy records, very similar to what we have right now. So it's just kind of a snapshot. Again, it's a document we haven't had before. Very similar to the Energy Star one. So we've created this, and this is referenced in the other document, which is our certification system. Now, this document, if anybody is interested in becoming or applying to be a home certification organization, those are different than verifiers. So a verifier is using the construction specifications, going through the checklist, helping the builders implement and install and verify that they've met all the requirements, right? This is the certification system. So now this is what a home certification organization would review to understand what is the oversight structure that we don't have right now for version 1. This is new to version 2. And so those kind of organizations that want to provide that oversight of verifiers, this is a document for them to review. It gives some introduction to the 2 tiers, very similar to the presentation that Nick gave earlier today. But then it starts talking about, what do we mean? We want training for the verifiers. We want oversight of the verifiers. We want quality assurance, which is where those checklists come into play, and reporting. Right now, you tend to report your indoor airPLUS units through the MESA system. This is how you do for Energy Star. And so we had to put that down into paper. How does this get reported? How does it get labeled? So all that information is in here. So if you are a verifier or builder, it's useful information so you understand what a home certification organization is going to be required to do, and what their application requirements are, what the eligibility requirements. And at the very end of this document, it looks like it's a long document, but half of this document is actually just their application. So we're hoping that a few organizations will apply, or at least respond to the public comment, review this and say, you know, there's some challenges we face in this draft document. We would like to be a home certification organization, but we don't like XYZ, or we would suggest that you change XYZ because it would make it easier for us to apply as a HCO for your program. So if any participants are on the call today that are thinking about this, this is again not for verifiers. This is new to V2 that we need a home certification organization. So this is above a verifier, providing oversight to our verifiers.
Great. Any questions on that? Okay.
And I think that's the end of the tour of the public comment website, right? So now you have a sense of what each document is. And so if you're looking for certified, again, look for the file names that say certified. If you're looking to provide public comment on gold specifications, make sure you're grabbing something that says gold in it. If you're looking to do home certification, it's these 2 files towards the bottom. And if you just are really interested in the highlights, technical details that have changed, you just want to know, maybe you don't want to participate in public comment, but you just want to know what's coming down the pike. That's that highlight summary document. And I think we were hoping to save a lot of time for questions. So that's basically the next 15 or so minutes are dedicated to any questions.
Great. Yeah. Again, if anyone has a question, you can put it in the chat, you can put it in the Q&A, or raise your hand and we can allow you to speak as well. I have a question. Is there, I think that people tend to really use the checklists, and I think we're familiar with the checklist from 1.0. Is there a document that shows what the changes are from 1.0 checklist to 2.0 checklist to 2.0 gold checklist? Could it all be in one place to navigate through it, or do we just flip through each document?
That's kind of what we're trying to accomplish in the highlights. It was really very messy to attempt a red line. Yeah. And so this highlights document is trying to accomplish what you just said, Aaron. Okay, so perfect. Basically, I get to moisture control. I know what version 1 said. So it's kind of high level. It's a summary. We couldn't do a red line, so you can't see that. It was very hard to do a red line because we were trying to just grasp the concept. So, like a trap drain, like this is anything that's on here. We think it's a substantially different requirement than it was in version 1.
Perfect.
We have thought about a table format for that, Aaron, kind of like you described, and we're kind of working on that, but it's also a little bit challenging. But hopefully, with this orientation, you'll be able to find if there's something that's new from V1 to V2, it's bulleted here. It's one that we think is important, and then if it's something specific to gold, we obviously have bolded that here. In this case, we're suggesting that for gold, it should be a requirement to put a capillary break on all newly installed footers as well, which is not currently a requirement in V1.
And so you can see there's missing numbers here, right? So we've determined, or we think that item 1.1 and 1.2 are fairly similar to those requirements in version 1. So that's why you see some missing numbers here.
Great.
We pointed out a couple highlights. If you're thinking of additional technical questions, we pointed out a few of them in the early slides. And maybe I'll just touch on a couple of those here. Gayatri also already mentioned that the moisture management pieces of the checklist are now intended to be rater verified. At least that's what we're proposing, that the rater would be able to verify them. And we also have a new item 1.19 for moisture management inspections. We know that some builders actually are doing this as a matter of course anyway, by hiring sort of a separate consultant to come in and make sure that the building envelope really is, pretty well secure, that they're not going to come up with moisture management issues from bulk water down the road. Again, that's something that we think that raters can verify, or separate consultants for that matter. But that is a new element to our program, and we certainly would be open to feedback about how we have articulated that in the specs. A second one is, that I mentioned before, is radon testing. This is different than what we proposed in the first round of public comment. And it really comes down to kind of what we're seeing and hearing from states across the country, where there have been more testing done on existing homes. And even those homes that are in radon zones 2 and 3 oftentimes can still test high for radon. And what we would like to see is a more performance-based approach for our specifications in general. And we test ducts for their air tightness. We test the building envelope for its leakage as well. We think that builders can be challenged with testing for radon, regardless of what zone they're in, if we want to have an indoor air quality program that really focuses on radon protections. We know that not all builders will like that immediately, but we would like to hear from folks, and for those who have tested, to know what how much of a barrier or a challenge they feel that is. So, if you have any questions on that, happy to take them. There will be a few others. There'll be quite a few other requirements in the HVAC section for any folks in the who are manufacturers of HVAC equipment. It's a very important section for you all to look at to make sure we got things right. Again, we don't think that this is necessarily perfect. We are trying to have more of a focus on kind of the difference between heating and cooling equipment. You'll see the term HAC come up here in the document. Versus ventilation, the V and HVAC, and they're both important. We still will use the term HVAC from time to time, but we're trying to place some emphasis on the fact that mechanical ventilation can and sometimes should be a separate system from heating and cooling. We have, of course, new requirements as well for filtration. We're proposing MERV 11 for centrally ducted systems as a requirement for filters, and then gold MERV 13. Other requirements that are kind of unique to gold that we proposed in the first draft were dwelling unit mechanical ventilation being balanced. Right now, we kind of see that as a gold only improvement. We think that there's likely better distribution of ventilation that comes through a balanced system versus one that might only exhaust from a bathroom and might only be pulling incoming air from the cracks and leaks near the bathroom. So we think that a 2-fan or a balanced system is probably a better approach in the long run. And we think gold's the right place for that. But again, open to your feedback. So that's it at a high level. Are there any other questions that have come in, Aaron?
I do not see any. So with that, again, thank you so much. I think for me, the summary of proposed updates is the document to work off of. And then, we just had a question come in. Terrific. It's a comment. So there you go. That was terrific. And this is so great to have a chance to inform and comment on the version 2. And we hope that a lot of people will participate and give your comments. I think a fair comment, Nick, you and I have talked in the past. I always say, we're putting MERV 16 filters in now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's fair to comment where we don't feel you go far enough too, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, we like any and all feedback. And just as one more final note, many of you probably have seen the announcements about the EEBA summit this fall, and we do plan to be at EEBA again and kind of talking about indoor air quality improvements generally. And we do plan to host our Indoor airPLUS Leader Awards there, which we're excited about. Again, the Indoor airPLUS Leader Awards will be going out. The applications will be going out here in the next couple of weeks, the beginning of April. So watch for notifications from EPA on that. And of course, Aaron and Nancy and the EEBA team will keep you updated on Summit.
Yeah, and I think, Nick, as you know, at EEBA, one of our focuses is healthier homes for occupants. And we are just going to launch an Excellence in Healthier Homes Award it has to be a house under construction or finished. But if you're doing some really unique, cutting edge things, we'd love for you to apply for that award. And that'll be given at the awards dinner during the EEBA Summit in Salt Lake City, October 10th through 12th.
Excellent.
Great. Oh, one more question. Let's see if it's just a comment again. Great. Well, Nick and Gayatri, thank you so very much for spending some time with us today. We greatly appreciate it. Oh, Tom Marks raised his hand. Tom, do you want to?
Okay, I have one random question.
Perfect.
Maybe Nick can even point it out to me on the website. Are there stats about number of new homes certified, qualified under Indoor airPLUS currently? And I'm just curious how it compares to some of the other EPA programs like Energy Star and whatnot. Is it utilized a lot by builders now? I'm asking out of ignorance. I'm just curious. Maybe there's information about that somewhere.
Yeah, great question. I don't have it pulled up right now. I could probably find it with a few extra minutes, but yeah, we track the number of labeled homes that are reported to EPA. It's roughly in the 60,000 range since Indoor airPLUS started, which does not sound like a lot for those of you who kind of familiar with Energy Star and its evolution. Although Energy Star has of course been around since the mid 90s, and so they have a jump start on market penetration. What we've seen over this last 3 years in particular is a renewed interest in indoor air quality. And we were seeing it even before COVID with some larger builders getting on board and committing to 100% Indoor airPLUS homes. We now have a couple national production builders who have made that commitment. And so we're seeing the trend really increase quite a bit in this last few years, which is great. So this is a unique and pivotal time for Indoor airPLUS as we're starting to gain more market traction. And like I said in the beginning, we really do want to kind of see an opportunity for entry-level builders and affordable housing, and for those builders to kind of take that charge a little bit more directly. So that's the intent of the version 2 framework, is to really increase program adoption. We know that from historical perspectives, there will be some drop off with some builders who don't like 1 or 2 requirements or certain aspects of the program. But we hope this is still pushing the market in the right direction. It is a public-private partnership, so this is where we get to kind of exercise our intellectual ability and our partnership as individuals kind of across the table to say, hey, what's the best way to help influence these kind of health protections in the market with a voluntary federal labeling program. So this is where your input really comes in.
Great. Thanks again, Tom. Well, Nick and Gayatri, thank you so very much. It was great having you with us today.
Thanks again. Really appreciate it.